Okay, if I can get this to work. All right. Can you see my screen now? Are we good?
No, you're not sharing your screen.
I'm not.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay, what is going on? Hold on. Bear with me. There we go. It's a coming. I am technologically like defunct today, apparently. There we go. now,
Yep. We're good.
now we're good. Okay, sorry about that. Let me move this out of my way. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm serious. I am like totally out of it today. Wake up, Mrs. Hodges. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. Glad you could join us. I'm 4 minutes late. I apologize. Technical difficulties, but glad to see some names and faces that I recognize. We are going to wrap up this three-part series today that we started, I guess, about a month ago. We started with oral language development and the importance of that in just overall literacy. If you do not have that foundational oral language base established for your young students, then everything after that is just going to be a struggle. So we went from oral language, and then the last time we talked about how their bodies have to be ready before they can start handwriting and then transition into just actual writing. But first of all, learning how to form the letters. So building that body strength. And we talked about how no amount of instruction is going to overcome that deficit without them having stamina, strength in their hands, their core strength, all of those things. So today we're going to wrap it up by transitioning into actually talking about the stages of writing. And how those develop, things you can do to support each stage, what they look like, what to expect. And then usually when I'm in person, we do a sorting activity at the end, but I set it up so you guys could look at the slides and try to come off mute or put in the chat and kind of try to guess a writing sample on what stage it would be in. So I'm going to try not to talk too fast, but there's a lot to get through so we can get to that activity. And I will send this PowerPoint to Tyler and she'll send that out to you. And hopefully you have the note catcher if you want to use that. And let's get going. All right. Well, that's me. You don't need to see me. It's me again. I'm here if you need me. Something new we've added into each of our presentations just to remind you that this does fall into a part of that OKMTSS framework. This is tier one instruction that we're discussing today, focuses on universal class-wide supports, and that green section of the framework is where we're at, evidence-based practices. All right, here's our objectives today. By the end, I'm hoping that you have a better understanding of the 4 stages of writing development. I am hopeful that you'll be able to identify some of the characteristics, benefits, things you can do to support them, teaching strategies, and then at the very end, successfully be able to identify different student writing samples. Okay, so let's start with a very quick overview of the 4 stages of writing development. We start out with the pre-literate stage. So that is also sometimes called the scribbling stage, which I feel like kind of gives it a bad rap because that scribbling is extremely important. These ages that it lists for each stage are not set in stone. They are phases, they're fluid. Kids can be in a completely different stage than what the age level says. So, and they can actually kind of be in two at once sometimes as well. Then we've got the emergent stage, around 2 to 4 years. I would think most of your pre-K students would probably come in this emergent stage. Some of them may still be in the end of that pre-literate stage. Some of them may be a little bit more advanced than that. And that's when they're starting to try to form some letters. Transitional phase, more inventive spelling, kind of creating their own spellings around pre-K to early first grade normally. And then, of course, that final stage is the fluent stage, which is where they actually become writers and transition more from handwriting to actual writing, and pretty much from first, second grade on up, again, depending on their developmental phase that they're in. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the pre-literate stage. So, some characteristics of this stage, you're going to see lots of random marks. The marks are usually just kind of a product of joy for them and exploration rather than them trying to convey any kind of meaning. They're just having fun making the marks, and they learn a lot about cause and effect during this stage. They might be waving a crayon around and it make a mark on something accidentally, and they recognize that, and then it happens again. Pretty soon they start to see, oh, I'm making that mark. So lots of squiggles and weird shapes. They like to experiment with lots of different tools. The more you can give them, the better. At this point, their motor skills become a little bit more, their motor skills become a little bit more refined as they start to learn how to grip these tools, and they start to learn what it means to kind of move their hand across the paper. And then throughout this pre-literate stage, once they realize that they hit the paper, made a mark, then the marks do become a little bit more deliberate as they learn that cause and effect. And they might start figuring out if they draw a circle that might represent mommy or daddy or any person. Okay, some key benefits of this stage, their development in this stage. Obviously, their motor skills are going to really develop during this stage. The scribbling, as we've talked about before, strengthens those hand muscles and works on their coordination. Remember, all different kinds of tools, and just letting them have fun with it. As they start making those marks, that cognitive growth, understanding cause and effect, they start to kind of maybe communicate some emotions. Might be as simple as I'm mad, so I'm going to scribble really, really hard, something like that. Or if I'm happy, I might try to make a mark that looks like a flower or a sun, something like that. And those things become symbols for them. So they start to see those random marks that they're making as symbols for some type of communication, just barely, just the beginning of that. Here's what the pre-literate stage looks like, usually. These are kind of sub stages, I guess you could say. So you've got that scribbling stage where it really is very random, then a little bit more of the symbols. So for the child, that might be a sentence they wrote, I am happy. Directional scribble, so they're learning that writing happens in a linear fashion across the page. And then I love the symbols or the mock letters where they think they're copying mommy and daddy's writing, and they're really not, but to them, they are. I mean, they're copying it, but they're not writing anything of meaning, but they really are trying to emulate mom and dad. All right, so what do you teach during this phase? You teach them that writing is a form of communication. That's what we use it for, help them understand that. You work on those concepts of print. I think we all know these days, a lot of kids come into pre-K without ever having held a book. Maybe they are a family who doesn't have books in their house, so they don't understand the concepts of print that I feel like students had maybe 15, 20 years ago. Those are a lot less now. So help them understand the concept of print, how to hold a book, that we read a book left to right. We read any kind of print left to right, top to bottom. Help them understand the difference between a drawing and a writing. Even though when they're really little, kids will draw a picture and we'll say, what did you write? Or they'll write something and we'll say, what did you draw? They kind of seem interchangeable there for a while, but as they go through this stage, we need to help them understand the difference between the two. And of course, then when they hit pre-K, or even before then, some of them come in already knowing how to print their name. So if not, introduce that name writing to them. Lots of support during this stage. Always provide lots of tools, lots of opportunities. Many different tools: crayons, washable markers, chalkboards, big sheets of paper, any type of exploration. And this model will be probably, I'm pretty sure it shows on every stage as a support. You cannot model enough for them. So model with them, show them how you use writing in everyday life. Show them you're making a shopping list or writing a note, or maybe you're drawing a picture. So create a safe environment. We want your students to be able to scribble freely without fear of someone saying that's wrong, that's not writing, or so creating in their brain that they're making a mistake when they're scribbling. So create that safe environment where they really can practice freely. And of course, celebrate any kind of attempt. It's kind of fun at this stage, instead of saying, "What did you draw?" say, "Tell me what you wrote," and kind of start changing that conversation. Some fun activities to do during this time. And again, I'll say on these first two stages, pre-literate and emergent, these activities are all, they can pretty much be done throughout both of these stages. But these are wonderful things that I think I shared too in the Strong Bodies, Strong Stories, or Strong Hands, Strong Stories last time. Things that will strengthen here. Well, now they'll not only strengthen, but they help form those writing skills and habits as well. So the sensory writing, the Play-Doh, we talked about the Palmer Arch last time, still a big deal. All of these things that you see on the screen here, we talked about a little bit more in depth last time, but these are activities that will help increase their strength and make them feel like writers. I don't remember if I shared this one in another screen last time, so I'll just touch, but obviously that's something that teachers have done for many, many years, is have the children dictate a story to you. I do feel like it's kind of a lost art, and I don't think a lot of people think that it has much value anymore, but it does. Having them dictate a story to you is a fabulous activity to help them buy in and become and feel like writers. So if you haven't been doing that, maybe step out and try that. All right, questions? I'll pause, take a breath, I'll get a drink. Gotta get me a drink. All right, let's move on to the emergent stage. This is a really important stage. They start to really understand that writing is a form of communication. Those kind of abstract, weird symbols start to become a little bit more concrete, and they take on a little bit more meaning for the kids. And they start understanding just the whole idea of language, and the written form of language just really opens up for them, and it becomes even more fun. Characteristics for this stage, you're going to see more letter-like forms and shapes rather than just scribbles. They start to understand that writing is made up of these symbols that represent that are letters. They start to string letters together. That's one of my favorite things. We'll see on the example in a minute, where they're just random letters, but they kind of string them together so that it looks like words. Again, copying mom and dad or teacher or big brother or big sister. They might start using some, or start trying to write some high frequency words. There we go. In their life. Mom, dad, cat, dog, usually just very easy, high frequency CVC words. So they actually will start to maybe write those. I started to say they might try to write their name if it's short and sweet, but Lord only knows we don't have those anymore. So I have seen some of these lists of kiddos' names, and they are tough. So bless their hearts when they're trying to write their names. They might start labeling and drawing with lots of word. They might start labeling a drawing with lots of words and letters, rather, because they understand writing more in context. And this is when they start, if they haven't already, this is where they're really starting to work on letter sound correspondence. So they might start trying to phonetically spell some things, or at least the first letter sound in a word. Really a big time of big growth for these kiddos. So key benefits of this stage: those fine motor skills keep growing. Their hand muscles become stronger. They develop more stamina. They're able to write or color for longer than they have been before. They start to understand that written symbols actually have a meaning instead of just being scribbling. And they start to understand the difference between a random symbol and an actual letter. And then they start connecting sounds to the marks that they're making on their paper, which is huge for them. Here's what the emergent stage often looks like. So there's the strings of letters that I love so much. Various, just varied and very random. I also love groups of letters because this is where it looks like they are trying to write words, even though the letters don't really make words or make sense. And then here's where they're labeling their pictures. So they drew the dog and they got that beginning sound to label that picture with. And then, of course, we've talked about environmental print before, but anything in the room, in your classroom, in the house, things they might see on the television, they will try to copy those as well. So, what do you teach during this stage? Start working on that proper grip and control. Remember, though, putting on, we talked about this last time, I believe, putting on some kind of a pencil grip is not going to fix the problem unless the hand strength and control is there. So they need all of that first. That's kind of just trying to, kind of like a band-aid, but they're still going to find a workaround to do it the wrong way if their hand isn't fully developed yet or the little muscles. During this time, start really helping them see and understand that there are groups of letters form words, groups of words form sentences, and that letters, words, and pictures are all different things. Because when they're really little, like I said, those words are interchangeable. What did you draw? What did you write? So they really need to start understanding the difference now, and encourage them to start talking about their writing and share about it and talk to friends. That's a huge skill to build and often difficult for our kiddos these days because they are behind screens a lot and often more isolated than they used to be. And of course, all that is just going to build their confidence. But again, make the room a safe place that helps their confidence grow and just celebrate them all the time. So here is some support. Again, lots of different writing tools and surfaces. We talked about that before too. The vertical surface, rough paper as opposed to smooth. All of that gives a different feel and sensory feedback to the kiddos. Again, model. Show them exactly what you do with writing every day. Continue to celebrate them. Continue to reinforce that connection between spoken and written language, and just continue to praise them constantly. And lots of games. Remember, play is the basis of everything in our early childhood classrooms. So any kind of games or songs that you can work on to build the phonemic awareness, it's going to stick better if they've played or if they have a chant or a song to go along with it. Whoops, did I skip one? There we go. Okay, so again, these are things that we've seen and talked about before, but these are really good in this emergent stage of writing. They'll continue to develop those skills. Hopefully, Rebecca, shake your head for me. Did we talk about the toothpick punch last time? Maybe not. I can't see the chat. But if we didn't, okay, let me see here. All right, well, I'll just say, okay. Is that it? Okay, I think somebody else said maybe we did. Yes. Okay. Now I can't see my screen again. There we go. For those that maybe didn't hear, the toothpick punch is a fun little fine motor activity. Small piece of cardboard, a picture taped to it, lay on the carpet on your tummy, poke with either a push pin, but I started using toothpicks many years ago because it was a little bit less dangerous. Yes, they will still try to stab each other, but it's a little better than the pin. So it's a great activity during this time. And there's the vertical drawing that I love for them to do. All right. So if I can get control of my screen again. And I cannot. Okay. Where did my screen go? Bear with me again. All right. What is going on here? I have no idea why my screen won't change. I'm so sorry, everyone. Tyler, bear with me a second. I don't know why it's not.
You want to stop sharing and then reshare?
I think I'm going to have to. I'm trying not to do. Oh, did it change?
Yes.
Okay, it was just hung up, literally. Okay. I am not sure if we talked about this one last time. This is a flip on the Dictate a Story. If you haven't done this, it's really fun. Take a book, cover it, hopefully a book they haven't read. Don't show them the cover, read the book aloud to them, and let them create what they think the cover of the book should look like. It's very, very fun to see what they come up with. All right, let's talk about the transitional stage. So now we're moving out of pre-K, probably in kinder, maybe even first grade. I still cannot see what I need to see. I'm so sorry, y'all. It's all right. We'll just let it go. I can't get to what I need. All right. So here are some characteristics of the transitional stage. Lots of phonetic spelling. It's one of my favorites because it is the word favorite. It looks like favorite, but it's favorite. And then we've got, I mean, you have many students who will try to do some standard spelling, words that are very familiar to them. So we've got, I like to go to school in spring so I can play. Very, very easy to read if you're a teacher, maybe not if you're not a teacher, if you're not a teacher. It is just hanging up like crazy. I'm so sorry. There we go. Okay. So they start to use more conventions. They start understanding and trying to use spacing, punctuation, capitalization, not always going to be correct, but they attempt to use those conventions a little bit more. They start to form more meaningful sentences, and they're just beginning to understand what an audience is and that different audiences have different purposes, and you write for a different purpose for different audiences, rather, I should say. Oh my goodness. What is going on? Okay, benefits of this stage. Kids are definitely actively engaged in language at this point. They have the ability to start analyzing words a little bit more, and they do completely now understand that connection between speaking and writing and what that means, and that it's all part of communication. Transitional stage looks a little bit like this. Puppies are the cutest. I love that. They are cute. Anybody know what this word is that I'm circling with my cursor, or can you guys see that? I'm curious if anybody can come off mute and tell me what you think that is.
Because.
Yeah, it is. People have trouble with that one though. Yeah, because. So puppies are cute. Puppies are the cutest. They are cute because they jump in your lap. Not bad. Not bad for this age. Not bad at all. So we've got more phonetic spelling. We've got increased readability. So even a teacher could make out a lot of that. A little bit better sentence structure. They try to space their words better. Usually they're using more capital letters and punctuation. Again, not always correctly. And then they're starting to understand that some words actually follow a pattern. Okay, thank you. There's a message popped up. Okay, so what do you teach during this stage? Work on those phoneme grapheme relationships, work on spelling patterns and word families, sentence structure. I don't think you're ever going to stop working on capitalization, punctuation, and spacing, but step that up. I taught third grade, my last year teaching third grade. I don't think the entire year my kids could capitalize what needed to be done. It was really a struggle for them. So lots of mini lessons on the writing process, which really picks up in the next stage, but definitely start introducing that writing process to them during the transitional stage. And again, these supports kind of all start to sound similar throughout each stage, but they need to be writing every day. I feel like every grade level, every age, every grade level needs to write every day. It might not be very much, and it might only be a few minutes, but daily writing is so important. Again, we're praising effort over accuracy. Give them a kudos, thumbs up for their effort. Continue to model. That is never going to go away. You as a teacher have got to model for your students what it looks like to write and communicate with your writing. We will talk about a print-rich environment a little bit in a minute, but that's extremely important to provide that within your classroom. And use of visual rubrics, which I absolutely love. And I think there's a sample mix. Yes. So a lot of teachers don't use a writing rubric or a visual rubric because they feel like they have to have something really fancy. Like you've got to go buy it off Teachers Pay Teachers and make it all fancy and beautiful. But you don't. This is a perfect example of this. This is just a teacher created notebook paper and then the copy paper at the bottom. They just made this themselves. And this was actually used in a classroom. The kids would take their writing up to this wall, look at this and say, oh, I'm at a 2 right now. I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to do this because I really want to get to a 3. So this is something, yes, I do too, Carrie. I love this. Very usable, very realistic, and not anything that's going to cost you a lot of money. So don't let that be the reason you don't use a rubric or anything else. There's always a way to find an inexpensive, easy way to do it. So think about using a rubric if you haven't. Activities that you can do during this time, start helping them expand their sentences. Morning messages. If you don't do those, I would definitely recommend that you try working on a morning message with your class. That's a lot of fun. Maybe have a class pen pals, maybe just this class next door, or maybe you can find a class in another town or another state, giving them writing prompts using word banks for activities. That's very helpful. Maybe a sentence starter. All of these things that you see here. A daily poem is so much fun. And even just the little sign in with the short little feeling sentence telling you about how they're feeling that morning. There you go. You've got 30 seconds of writing practice, but you got some in. So a little is better than none. If you are not familiar with the ELA framework page or website, I feel like that's the one thing I would love for you to take away from this today. There are so many resources there for you, so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. So this is the homepage, excuse me. And then this is a section of the homepage that's labeled resources by topic. Then you can go down and click on writing resources. And then, oh my goodness, why won't this go? It takes you to, this is still under writing resources, and it'll take you to a couple of different areas for some writing revision or editing checklists. These are amazing. Again, don't try to reinvent the wheel. People at OSDE and teachers throughout the state have done this for you. It's there. Here is an example. I love these. Here's a kindergarten revision checklist. Look at that. Your kindergartners could do that. They just have to understand what these are, and then they color in. You could read or help them with this part. They let you know my paper has this or it doesn't. Here's an editing checklist. This is an informative writing on the left. And then here's an editing checklist for the middle of the year. So it's a little bit more involved for them as they've grown through the year. These are already done for you. You just have to go to these resources in the framework and print them out. Okay, last stage. Okay, we're doing really good on time. All right, last stage is the fluent stage. They've become writers at this point, and they're just going to continue to grow and get better and better at this point. So let's talk about some characteristics of this fluent stage. They are writing in sentences and paragraphs. They're correct spelling most of the time, especially very familiar or common words. If they're unfamiliar words, they're still going to revert back to that phonetic spelling, which is fine. Their ideas are a little bit more organized. They can actually edit their writing. You might find that a voice or a style starts to emerge with your students. I loved when that happened in 3rd grade. So you get a paper that somebody forgot to put a name on, and you read through it and you're like, oh, this is Jane's paper. I recognize this voice and the style that Jane writes in. I love when they find that for themselves. And they might start writing in different genres as well. So, my goodness, technology is not my friend today. All right, some benefits of this stage. Definitely their confidence is going to just skyrocket. They are going to feel like a writer finally. They're going to transition, as we'll see in a minute. I think it's on a different slide, but they're going to not think of themselves as writing as just making letters, but they're really creating something now. They're more independent. They don't need you quite as much. They start to understand how to develop a plan and revise their writing, how to correct it, make it better. And they start to understand text structure. All of those things combine to make them much more obviously fluent writers at this point, just like it says. All right, so here's what some fluent writing might look like in your classroom. This is really cute. Wendy's fries are bad for you. Fries have over 200 calories. They don't know what they do with the oil. They just put any kind of oil. That's bad for people. That's why I don't get Wendy's fries. I love this. I think this is so cute. I believe this is one of the samples of my friends. Several of these are actual samples of my colleagues' granddaughters writing in school. So, but that's a pretty darn good paragraph nonetheless. That's a fluent writer for sure. So during this time, writing is going to become a little bit faster and easier for them. A little more automaticity is happening. They're starting to use those conventional mechanics, so they really understand, hopefully, the punctuation and capitalization, all of that. They start to have a logical flow of ideas instead of random sentences just stuck together. Their writing becomes more purposeful. They get an even stronger understanding of, I have an audience, I'm writing a story to entertain them. They start to understand what author's purpose is. And they start to use paragraphs, which I love when they figure that out as well. So those are all things that are very common for a fluent writer. What do you teach during this time? Work on that recursive writing process. Can't work on it enough. Planning, drafting, revising, editing, publishing. Those resources in the ELA frameworks are things that will help you work through that recursive writing process with them. Teach them more about paragraph structure. They're able to do it, but now they have to understand the topic sentence and all the supporting details, how to form a good paragraph. And then this was always my favorite. My third graders struggled forever with transition words. I think that is a tough one. However, I think when they do finally grasp it, I think it's a game changer for their writing. They can connect their paragraphs, their sentences so much easier as it flows with a transition word, but they just really, really struggle with that at first. And so we got some very interesting paragraphs as they just would randomly throw transition words throughout, thinking, I used a transition word, but not successfully. But work on that with them. Work on revising and editing. A great center to have is where students can work on just one skill. They can revise or edit just one skill at a time. So you might take several samples of writing, put them in some dry erase sleeves, put them in a folder, set them there, and maybe they're color codes. So this week we're only going to look for spelling errors, and those are going to be red or whatever. And then they have a highlighter to go through or a red dry erase marker. So they look through all of those writings in the folder and put a circle around where they see spelling issues. So they learn how to edit very easily, very quickly, and an easy thing for you to set up as a center and change out. So every week or two, you could change it out. It might be punctuation, it might be spelling, whatever you wanted to focus on. And then help them understand and use those checklists that are already created for you for editing and revising their work, or peer feedback. So these are supports during that time. Lots of graphic organizers. Okay. However, I will tell you, one of the things that we found is an issue. There's so many cute graphic organizers out there. So teachers tend to find one, maybe it's the hamburger, and we're going to use the hamburger this week. And then the next week, I found this really cool rocket, so we're going to use a rocket. That can be very confusing for them. I would say find your favorite graphic organizer and just use that one. Forget all the others, no matter how cute they are. Pick one that works with your students, that they have done well with, and let that be the graphic organizer for the entire school year. It helps them stay focused and structure their writing much easier if they're not trying to figure out the new parts of a graphic organizer. So think about doing that. If you've been using several, provide checklists for them. Start looking at peer feedback. Takes time, but oh my goodness, it's invaluable. Give them timely feedback from you. Remember when you were a student, I had a wonderful, wonderful professor that I adored, but when we turned in an assignment, it might be 2 months until I heard something back on it. And by then, I remember not even caring about revising it because it had been done so long ago. So give them quick feedback and turn around so they can revise or edit or understand what they need to work on. And then give them time still to build that stamina to be able to write for longer periods of time. That's got to come in little bits. So again, that ELA framework page, those writing resources, here are checklists for grade 2. And you'll see there's a beginning and a middle of year, and then there's different types of writing down here. So you've got a narrative checklist, an informative checklist, and an opinion checklist. And again, these are done for you. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. So we've got a grade 2 informative writing checklist here, and then a grade 2 editing checklist for this one. These are great. I love using these. I did not discover these for many, many years. I'll be honest, until I worked here, I was not fully aware of all that was available in area framework pages. So not just ELA, investigate as many of them as you can. So many good resources there. There is already pre-made for you how to teach them about peer feedback. This has a link to a slideshow you can share with your students, a handout you can give them, and a lesson plan to actually teach them about peer feedback, how to do it correctly, and make it be a fun, valuable part of your writing. Okay, some fun activities for this time period, or for this stage rather. Have an author chair. Have a real chair labeled as the author's chair, and nobody gets to sit in it unless your story has been published and you're ready to share it with your class. Lots of journal writing, making books, the pen pals again. How-to writing is always a lot of fun at this age. How to do something. The old favorite of how to make a peanut butter sandwich is always hilarious to do, but there's so many things you can do with the how-to writing to help them grow. Okay, we're going to skip over that. Let me look at my time. Okay. Let's talk really quickly. Actually, there's a lot of pictures here. I don't think I shared this with you guys last time. I separated one large presentation into 3, so that's why I can't remember what I have in each one. These are some ideas for creating that print-rich environment in your classroom that your students desperately need. If you don't have a classroom post office or mailbox, I highly encourage that. You do not have to have a Pinterest post office. You don't have to have this giant area. This goes from fancy to middle of the road, and then this is what I had in mind the whole year. Unless the only time it was different is when my dramatic play center became a post office, but the rest of the year I had $2 tree buckets labeled just like that, and my kids loved it. There was an incoming and outgoing mail. We could write letters to each other. I would send them letters. They absolutely love it, but don't not do it because you don't have the fancy stuff. Buy a couple of dollar buckets and make your classroom mailbox or classroom post office. If you don't already incorporate writing into your dramatic play center, it's a wonderful way for those, especially in that emergent level, that emergent stage of writing, to add any kind of writing to whatever is happening in your dramatic play area. So we've got a flower shop order form, somebody taking an order here for food, a breakfast menu, and then the veterinarian over here assessing the health of this stuffed animal. That's a really fun way for the kids to have some writing practice. Label everything in your room. It's even better if they can help you create the labels. If you are in maybe a pre-K 3 or pre-K 4 classroom, you might start with your labels just being just the picture, then maybe the picture plus the word, and maybe toward the end of the year, maybe cover up the picture and they've just the word. So you're scaffolding with those labels throughout the school year, excuse me. And hopefully by the end of the year, they can actually read the labels. Environmental print is one of my favorite things in the world. This is what I did to my classroom for just about every single year. It's super easy. It's just construction paper with but cut the die cut letters, glued on the construction paper, laminate each piece, put them up there on the door, and then the kids bring the labels in to match whatever letter or two you might be focusing on. Or if you don't focus on a letter specifically, then they bring them in to match. They put them on the door. This is how I convinced my pre-K students that they were readers. They read the door for me, and they totally believed that they were reading because they were reading that environmental print. Also, something you can share with parents when they're on their way somewhere, on a trip, driving down wherever. Have the students read environmental print signs that they're so used to. And there's nothing, I mean, we've talked about this before, but the kids have got to buy in to being a reader and a writer. So this is part of that journey for them, making them believe that they can do it. Multilingual label, if you have a in your class that speaks a different language, an EL student, bilingual, whatever you have, think about labeling everything in not only English, but whatever the home language is, perhaps for that child. Having an accessible student library. Again, I'm going to say it doesn't have to be a Pinterest library. This picture in the center is absolutely beautiful. I think I would love to have something like that in your classroom. But for many years, my library was the top right, just the shelf with the books, and I would put out the ones that coordinated with that, whatever our theme was for that couple of weeks session, and that was perfectly fine. But just to have the books accessible for the students and not put away where they can't get to them. I mean, these are several different levels. Those, I feel like those top two on the left are a little bit more fancy and expensive, and the bottom left is a little bit more doable on a budget, and certainly that one on the top right. So whatever you have the resources for, it's enough. It's enough. Don't convince yourself that it's not good enough because it's not fancy. Again, put it out there for your kiddos. A functional writing center is so important. Again, we've got a beautiful large space in the center. I didn't have that. I did not have that. I think a couple of years I had room for something like that, and that was it. I used a portable writing center most of the time, which is on the right. You can make it with just file folders. You can make it with, that's just a piece of cardboard they cut and folded. You could make the trifold. Those are a little bit big, the big science ones, but you could cut those in half. That is just a writing center that they can pick up and move around anywhere. So doesn't have to be the fancy one again, but having a functional writing center that they can use or rotate through daily is fantastic. So these are just some things, just reminders. Have that print rich all day. I like that too. I like that too, Rory Hodges 2.0. I love that. Popped up in my chat down there, but it's, I believe it's Stacy still. I love it. If you're not doing read the room or write the room activities, those are fantastic. So much fun for the students. Really gets them involved. Yes, I knew it was you, Stacy. I think most teachers personalize the cubbies and things for the students, but if you don't, do that. That's an easy way to get it going. Remember eye level displays, something that I still find really funny, and you guys have probably all done it because I did it, because this is what we do. Where do we put our number lines and our alphabet lines in our classrooms? The top of the wall, right up there against the ceiling, because that's where we have room. And I get it because I did it too. But think about perhaps setting your room up where that number line or that alphabet line is maybe down lower, maybe at eye level for your students. Use legible fonts on your displays. That's something I think we forget about a lot. Those fonts that are really fun and cutesy for us are sometimes very hard for our students to read. So just be aware of these things. These are things you can do pretty easily. Okay, we've got just a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, Any questions from anybody? Anything I missed? Let me catch up in my chat. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to pop up a sample, a student writing sample, and then I've got my chat open so I could see. You can either pop it in the chat or you can come off mute and just see if you can recognize what these student samples are. So we've got pre-literate, emergent, transitional, and then fluent. All right, here we go. See if I can make this work. All right, what do you think that one is? Come on, somebody guess. Come on. All right, Stacy says emergent. Ding, 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 ding. Very good. Okay, what about this one? Feel free to come off mute too. Okay, Carrie says fluent. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one? Okay.
Wait a minute. I didn't realize
Uh-huh.
it was dictated.
Uh-huh.
My bad. Pre-literate.
No, that's exactly what happens. That's what I was going to point out. There you go. Yes. First glance, we automatically looked at what was written and then realized, wait, the child scribbled and then dictated to the teacher what he meant. So yeah, I know that's exactly it, Stacy. That one's kind of tricksy. All right, what do you think?
I was thinking that's really good writing.
We did the same thing. Absolutely. Don't feel bad. What do you think about this one? It looks like they're going to Satan, but I think it's Saturn. But I love this one. Took a rocket ship to Satan. Any guesses on this one? No?
I'd say transitional to fluent.
It is transitional. Yes, transitional. There's a lot of good in that writing, and you can read it. They're definitely making strides towards being a fluent writer. All right, what about this one? Definitely a pre-literate. I love this though, because when we're doing this in person, it's black and white. And I love that they use the red and the blue to create that the word siren in their brain. I love that. All right, what about this one? And if anybody can figure out what this word is, we're still dying to know, because no one knows nobody actually knows what this says. So what do you think about campodoplasm? Come on, somebody throw out a guess. Okay, I've got an emergent. Good job. Again, if anybody can decipher that, we'd love to know what it says. All right, what about this one? Yes.
I love how she spells knees.
Yes, I know. Oops, I cheated on that one. I got trigger happy. So here's another transitional. Lots of correct words, still some phonetic spelling when they don't know, random capitals, but definitely making progress. All right, what about this one?
Emergent.
Good job. Yes. Emergent it is. All right, what about this one? My cat is brown. So this is the student writing, obviously. Transitional. Most people think that this one is emergent, but they've actually progressed to creating that sentence, got a little bit of phonetic spelling, and even though it's mostly caps, it's still considered transitional because it's a full complete sentence on this one. I love this one. Obviously pre-literate, but still that student's going to have a lot to say about that scribble. So don't discount that scribble stage. It's so important. All right, what about this one?
I'd say transitional.
Okay. Bingo. Yep, they're getting close. There's some words spelled correctly. There's still some phonetic spelling. Lots of things they have to work on, but you can still read this paragraph. Okay, what about this one? This one always throws everyone too. This one has thrown a lot of people.
I agree. I think emergent.
What?
All
I'm
right.
coming back. I got kicked off of Zoom. Hang tight. But we are just about done. Yeah,
Okay.
they lost me.
Okay.
Weirded me out, but I'm trying. Look, I'm back.
Okay.
Am I back? Maybe? We'll just finish over here.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm just trying to make sure there wasn't anything else I really wanted to show them. Well, I think that was about the end. Let me go down here and see what we missed. That might have even been the last sample.
Yeah.
Okay, there were just a few. Now I'm in two places. Oh my goodness.
You want to?
Oh, I'm having so many technical problems today. Yes, I will send you the slides. Actually, I'm gonna send them to Tyler. She'll forward them.
Everything's happened. My goodness. Wow. Zoom is not my friend today. Okay, we're going to wrap this baby up before we have any more technical problems. I apologize. We got very close to the end of it. You guys did great. Thank you for your attendance and for listening today. I did want to share this with you. This is what I was trying to get to because I need this. Oh my, everything. It won't let me share. I'll have you send it, the learning. I'll have Tyler, when she sends you the slides, usually at the end, I have a slide where you can give me a little bit of feedback. So assuming that you don't hate me for dying here at the end, but it was great. Thank you. I enjoyed doing this 3-part webinar with you guys, and I hope you got some good stuff to take away and use in your classrooms. And I will see you soon, hopefully without all the Zoom issues. So I will give it back to Tyler so she can close you out.
All right, thank you guys so much for attending today. And we hope to have some more early learning childhood opportunities for you moving forward. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Thanks, ladies.